This broadcast is sponsored in part by Hendrick Automotive Group. Live from Charlotte, this is WBTV News, on your side.
Now at 6 o'clock, a 16-year-old girl believed to be dead. In just a couple of hours, recovery efforts will continue on the South Fork Catawba River in Gaston County. WBTV's Caroline Hicks is live this morning.
Crews in Gaston County believe that 16-year-old drowned after slipping into the river with a couple of her friends. They were able to rescue her friends. They'll continue to look for her body today. I'll have details coming up.
Plus, pro-choice demonstrators rushed the dais at Charlotte City Council. 3 people arrested. The controversial change in city rules that had people on both sides of the issue speaking out. Good morning. Welcome to WBTV News this morning. It is Tuesday, June 25th. Now coming up on 6 a.m., I'm John Carter.
And I'm Kristen Miranda. In for Christine Spiro. We had more powerful storms roll through the Charlotte area, took down trees, knocked out power for thousands of people. A live look from East Charlotte, where crews are working to remove a tree that brought down some power lines. Wow, what a mess.
Yeah, it is a mess. So are we in for another round of storms today? Well, let's check in with Charlotte's most experienced morning meteorologist. Here's Al Conklin.
Yeah, John, they were rough last night, and they really came through towards the end of the day as we thought they would. There you can see it. This is going back to last evening. Notice how they rolled right out of the mountains, across the foothills, into the Piedmont, and then down into the sandhills and away from us. Now we're left with drier conditions, but boy, some of these had a real punch, a lot of lightning, and quite a bit of wind as well. Again, now the difference is that we've got drier conditions moving in, but some spots still dealing with a little bit of fog. Shelby, 3-mile visibility. Chester right now 1 mile. So we'll monitor that fog situation. You can see it here in the valleys. This is High Brighton Mountain again above. We're looking good, but in the valleys, lots of low clouds. It'll take some time to burn off, but once it does, you're in good shape. Partly to mostly sunny skies for today. 74 this morning. Muggy start to the day. More sunshine as we go through the day and lowering humidity. It won't be as humid as yesterday, but it will be hot. The high temperature 90 degrees. No real rain chance for today. How long does that last? We'll talk more about that in the 7-day planner just a couple minutes. Right now, First Alert Traffic.
First Alert Traffic is sponsored by Toyota of North Charlotte.
And right now, a few drive times for you. We're glad you're watching down in Rock Hill this morning. And if you're headed to uptown Charlotte anytime soon, it's going to take you about 21 minutes if you're using I-77. Then if you live up in Concord, good to have you along with us this morning. And about a 20-minute drive coming into Center City along I-85 South. And Lake Norman, folks, it's going to take you about 18 minutes to get into Center City traveling I-77 southbound. Here's a live look at the current conditions map. You can see we don't have any accidents on the interstates or major thoroughfares. We'll keep you posted throughout the morning. Meanwhile, we are staying on top of breaking news that could impact your drive to work. In West Charlotte, crews are tirelessly working to repair that ripped up road caused by the massive water main break. Here's a live look from our HD Tower Cam at that scene. This is Freedom Drive near West Moorhead Street here in West Charlotte. This is expected to impact your morning commute again today, so be sure to plan ahead. It could be several days before repairs are finished. And also breaking this morning, following last night's strong storms, a tree took down power lines, leaving more than 300 people in the dark in East Charlotte. Right now, Eastway Drive is closed off from the Plaza to Weldon Avenue as crews work to remove that tree. And you can see how it has taken down those power lines there. According to Duke Energy's outage map, power is expected to be restored by 9 a.m. Now, within the last hour, the number of power outages in Mecklenburg County has dropped. We'll give you a look at Duke Energy's current outage map. Right now, there are 1,192 customers without power. That's about 100 fewer outages than we reported in our 5 a.m. hour. Many of those outages are in the South and East Charlotte. According to Duke Energy, crews are out assessing the damage. Kristen.
Well, John, in less than 2 hours now, recovery efforts will continue on the South Fork Catawba River in Gaston County. A 16-year-old girl is believed to be dead after she went swimming with her friends yesterday. WBTV's Caroline Hicks is now near the South Fork of the river to talk about that recovery effort that begins in a short time. Good morning, Caroline. What's the latest?
Good morning, Kristen. That's right. Well, they're hoping for the best today, hoping they'll be able to locate her body, but it's been a difficult mission so far. Yesterday, they were able to rescue her 2 friends, but they say the 16-year-old girl went under before they could get to her. They say the 3 were exploring around the area and swimming in the river near the South Fork River Bridge in High Shoals. This was around 4 o'clock yesterday. And this is when the 16-year-old slipped and fell into the water, and they believe she did eventually drown. Crews rescued her 2 friends, but it's been a tricky mission to recover the body even after lowering the water levels.
It's below the dam, and it's sort of a hole. I'm not sure the technical name for it, but the water is going in at about 8 pounds per the flow rate per gallon, and they're not able to recover the individual, recover the body. So they're working to try to figure out how to get that done.
And at one point yesterday, a Good Samaritan tried to help the girls after they flagged him down, but he ended up falling in as well and had to be rescued. Again, the crews were able to safely rescue him and the other 2 friends, but they are continuing to search for the body of that 16-year-old girl. That mission expected to start up again today at 8 o'clock. Of course, we'll bring you the latest as we get it. Reporting live in High Shoals, Caroline Hicks, WBTV. On your side.
All right, Caroline, and this is the 2nd death reported on the South Fork Catawba River recently. Less than 2 weeks ago, a 14-year-old boy was found dead after being swept away into the river. Back on June 14th, crews recovered the body of Ethan Britt after a 3-day search. Ethan was laid to rest last Thursday following a funeral service in Bessemer City.
5 minutes after 6 now, live in the Alert Center. I have a couple of quick updates for you on the tensions between the U.S. and Iran. Iran's president spoke on television in his country this morning. Had some pretty harsh words for the White House, its policies, and the U.S. president. This is, of course, a day after President Trump imposed the new round of economic sanctions on Iran. And this morning, the Iranian president called those sanctions, quote, outrageous and idiotic. Also new this morning, the U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton says that President Trump is open to real negotiations, and he said, quote, all Iran needs to do is walk through that open door. Bolton made those comments at a high-profile trilateral security summit that is happening in Jerusalem today. Now remember, all of this started to escalate when Iran shot down a U.S. drone. The White House says that the downed drone was operating above international waters. Iran insists it was in its airspace when it was shot down. These updates keep coming in throughout the morning, and I'll keep you posted as they do.
The Charlotte City Council business meeting today is... Whoa, Jesus. Oh, wait a minute. No.
Chaos in Charlotte City Council chambers. A group of protesters jumping over barriers and standing on top of the dais there after the Charlotte City Council voted whether or not to change a noise ordinance that would lead to stiffer penalties from violators. Overnight, we learned 24-year-old Landon Rice, 19-year-old Julia McCarthy, and 21-year-old Benson Crooks are all facing charges in connection to the disruption. Charlotte-Mecklenburg police say they gave protesters a verbal warning during the meeting last night, but when they wouldn't stop the disruptive behavior, they were arrested. WBTV's Sharon Hayes is joining us now live. So, Sharon, we've been following those against the ordinance, but apparently these were actually people in support of the ordinance.
Yes, that is correct, John. Now, to be clear, there were protesters both in support of and against this bill that were at last night's meeting, but it was those who actually supported the noise ordinance that ended up bringing the meeting to a standstill with their protests. And we have been following this stricter noise ordinance, and which pro-life activists feel is in direct response to their demonstrations outside of a preferred women's clinic. Now, I want you to take a look here. I mean, Mayor Vi Lowes was even appeared shocked when several of those pro-choice demonstrators rushed the dais at the start of this meeting. And the group unfurled a banner and started shouting before police could arrest some of them. And the council was taking up discussion on restricting amplified noise like bullhorns and loudspeakers 200 feet or less from schools, churches, and specifically medical clinics. Anti-abortion protesters believe it will limit their freedom of speech during their demonstrations outside of that women's clinic on Latrobe Drive. Now, more than 100 people spoke during the public comment portion of the meeting for and against the noise buffer.
The bellowing of the loudspeaker serves to degrade our patients and has taken free speech and weaponized it, and the weapon is amplification.
If we can proclaim our message on any street corner, then every street corner falls under the Constitution of the United States.
Now, in the midst of this chaos that happened last night, the council did ultimately vote to approve the ordinance changes. Now, to be clear, these groups can still protest outside of these buildings, but there is no amplified noise, again, within 200 feet. And with that, if these violations are committed, they could face fines up to $1,000. I'm Sharon Hayes reporting live outside of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Government Center. WBTV on your side.
A bill that forces sheriffs in North Carolina to comply with immigration officials only has a couple more hurdles to go. North Carolina state senators voted in favor of the bill. And if it becomes law, that bill would require sheriffs and police to check everyone they arrest against a federal database. And if that person is in the country illegally, ICE could request that person be held for them. If sheriffs don't comply, they could be removed from office. The bill now heads back to the House for final approval before moving to the governor's desk. And we will have much more on this bill coming up in our next half hour this morning.
Looking ahead, today Mecklenburg County commissioners will continue discussion on the idea of raising the sales tax by 1/4 cent. The tax will go toward art, public parks, and greenways. Commissioners will go over just the details today about the possibility of placing a sales tax referendum on the ballot for voters when the next election rolls around. Of course, WBTV will be there for today's meeting.
Still plenty ahead on WBTV News this morning.
Right now, more than a dozen unsolved homicides in the Queen City. It's 6:33. What police are doing to bring families justice and get dangerous killers off our streets.
Plus, the conditions at a border facility under fire as migrant children are being moved today.
And meteorologist Al Conklin with your first alert weather.
Yeah, John, pretty quiet out there after last night's heavy showers and thunderstorms. Our first alert Doppler radar network is high and dry here. Should stay that way for most of the day today. Mountain forecast, hey, even there, a low rain risk for today. A gusty breeze out of the west, and again, your rain chance no more than about 10%. Mid-70s should do it. Our weather headlines, lowering humidity in our forecast for this afternoon. Summertime pattern here the next couple of days. I'm looking ahead to your weekend. We'll have your first alert forecast when we come back. John?
Well, we've got an accident reported at Providence Road and Scotland Avenue that's happened within just the last 10 minutes or so keep that in mind. Here's a live look at I-77 at Remount Road. No accidents on the interstates being talked about, are reported. We'll have more when we come back. It's 10 minutes after 6 o'clock. 6:14 right now, making national headlines this morning. Nearly 250 migrant children are being relocated because of unsanitary living conditions. They're being moved from a border protection facility in Clint, Texas, beginning today. The children will be moved into the Department of Health and Human Services shelter system. Last week, advocates found health and hygiene problems at the center in Clint. A researcher for Human Rights Watch says the children were sick, didn't have access to soap, and some hadn't bathed in weeks.
A growing number of people are taking on extra jobs to pay for living expenses. That's according to a just released report. According to a recent survey by Bankrate.com, the average side hustle brings in an extra $1,100 a month by working 12 hours a week. Though many families rely on side hustles to make ends meet, the most common reason is disposable income. That's according to 34% of people surveyed.
Looking ahead, tonight, our very own Hurricane Al Conklin going for his 4th straight championship at the Media Mayhem school bus race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Taking a look at video from last year's race, all part of the Bojangles Summer Shootout Series. If you'd like to catch Hurricane Al in action, the gates open at 5 o'clock tonight. Tickets only $8 for adults and free for kids 13 and under. And I don't know, if you see Al out there, he might even buy you a hot dog or something.
Bojangles.
Yeah, Bojangles. There you go.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, they're all gunning for me.
I
you
bet.
know.
There's like serious trash talk on social media.
There's a lot of trash talk, yeah, and it's mostly talk because they'll all be in the rearview mirror.
Oh.
The way I look at it. I'm going for number 5.
Yeah.
As Scott Cooper said out there, I'm going for one for the thumb.
Oh, my
So
God.
see what happens.
Al,
Yeah,
just
well,
be careful.
I know. Well, I'll be careful, but I might be eating some crow in the morning. You never know. So, all right. Hopefully you come out and we'll have a good time tonight. And it won't be as stormy as it was last night. That's for sure. We actually have pretty decent weather. Lowering humidity in our forecast for today. Boy, yesterday was brutal, though. We did manage to get to 92, exactly what I had forecast. And that heat index got to 98 yesterday afternoon before the showers and storms came to town. So it was pretty rough out there. Today will be a lot less harsh. We'll be looking at temperatures close to 90 and what, like I say, lowering humidity shouldn't be as bad. Look at the numbers here of late. It's been mostly in the upper 80s, but then all of a sudden we spiked yesterday, going from 86 Sunday to 92. So a big jump up there. And of course, we've also had some rain. Last week it was mostly on the light side, a little bit here, a little bit there. We had a good downpour on Saturday here in Charlotte, and then a lot of us got big downpours last night. In fact, some folks even lost power, which is unfortunate. We're still getting some reports of that even here in Mecklenburg County. Nearly 5 inches now for the month of June and 26 here for the year. So running a surplus, we're going to be in good shape with rain, though the rain chances are much lower the next couple of days because high pressure and drier air is now filtering in. So the humidity level, while it's sky high right now, will be coming down. 90% humidity here at 616, but that will be coming down. We've got a little bit of cloudiness out there this morning. This is downtown Belmont, but again, overall, the sun will be up and out today in full force, and there'll be much more of that than there will be rain. 70, Albemarle, Wadesboro, and Chesterfield. 69, Charlotte, Gastonia, back over to Rock Hill and Monroe. We've even got a few 50s showing up around the Foothills Regional Airport. I expect it will be in the low to mid 70s here around the Charlotte area by 8 o'clock. By then, the sun is up for about 2 hours, so we're already heating. And then this afternoon, again, it will be a hot day at 90 degrees, but with lower humidity and low rain chances. Not bad. Northwesterly breezes at about 5 to 10 miles per hour behind that front that's just now pushed off towards the east. So here comes the high. Now, eventually, as this high builds off to the east, you know what happens this time of the year. Eventually, we're going to see the humidity level come up as this changes character. We get into that southerly flow. Most of this will be pointed towards the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, at least initially, but then some of that will come our direction. So as you head towards Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'm looking at maybe a 20% chance of a thunderstorm here. Very low rain chances. None today and virtually none tomorrow. I think the humidity level still held in check tomorrow. But then as we head towards Friday and as I say the weekend, we'll probably see our chances come up. Though the numbers don't look all that impressive. That's the GFS, so the American model, has very low rain chances here going forward, as does really the European, even less. So if we get a cooling thunder shower, consider yourself fortunate because rain chances will be very low over the next 7 days. If you do get out and about, you've got weekend plans, for example, download our free WBTV weather app. It's got the alerts right there, watches, warnings, advisories, interactive radar, and of course, real-time lightning data, and that could be a lifesaver. 611, 842 sunup and sundown. 88 the average high. Will be a little bit above that, not just today, but all week long. 90 for tomorrow, then 92 for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and close to 90 on Monday. Overnight lows in the upper 60s, and as we head towards the weekend, closer to 70 degrees. All right, that is your forecast for today and beyond. Let's check in now on First Alert Traffic.
First Alert Traffic is sponsored by Toyota of North Charlotte.
And right now, here's a live look at I-77 at Clanton Road down towards South Charlotte, and you can see traffic is moving very smoothly on the interstates right now. No significant issues out there. Here's a live look from our current conditions map of how things are shaping up. If you're coming in from Lake Norman in the Mooresville area, Davidson there, and Cornelius coming down I-77, you can see southbound a little bit of a slowdown there. That's because of construction and all. That's a typical slowdown spot. So we'll widen out, show you the rest of the Charlotte area here. You can see everything looking really green this morning. That's good news if you are about to head out and go somewhere.
Hey, later this morning on Morning Break, we're talking about a couple of things this morning. One, kids and finances, how to get them both in line. And if you're craving a burger, we have an option for you, a lamb burger. John Carter, maybe you can have a bite of that when you host Morning Break with me and Coach today this morning at 9.
6:22 the time. Major League Baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers say they'll extend protective netting at the stadium after a line drive fly ball sent a 13-year-old to the hospital. 13-year-old Caitlin Salazar was hit in the head by a foul ball batted by Dodger star Cody Bellinger during the first inning of Sunday's game. Bellinger checked on her between innings as she sat in her seat with an ice pack on her head. The 13-year-old described the moment she was hit.
You know in those like movies where like when a bomb goes off and you hear an eerie sound and then like the scene starts to like get fadey and then everyone sounds like mumbled? Yeah, like that.
The Chicago White Sox and Washington Nationals also say they'll extend their netting as well. Back in May, remember, a 4-year-old girl was hit by a foul ball at the Houston Astros Stadium. And last year at Dodger Stadium, a 79-year-old woman was killed by a foul ball.
The 2019 Kia NBA Most Valuable Player goes to Giannis Antetokounmpo.
All right, you heard it right there. After much anticipation, the Milwaukee Bucks superstar takes home MVP. The 24-year-old center, who was taken with the 15th pick in the 2013 NBA draft, edged out James Harden and Paul George to win the first MVP award of his career.
All right.
Coming up next on WBTV News this morning, a controversial bill on immigration enforcement in North Carolina has passed the state Senate. At 6:32, the next hurdle for this piece of legislation.
Plus, many of us turn right to the internet when experiencing an uncommon health symptom. But at 6:48, we talk with a physician's assistant about why you might want to reconsider doing that. Al.
John, out there this morning, it's really nice. We've got temperatures mostly in the 60s. After last night's heavy thunderstorms, we've cooled off a little bit, and eventually we're going to dry out. The humidity level a little lower today. We'll talk about that and your weekend forecast when we come back, John.
You are watching WBTV News this morning at 6:25, and we'll be right back.